Hello LEGO fans, Bricks Unbound here with another Building Hogwarts update. So similar to the Viaduct Entrance Hall rework, this update will have a couple parts. So part one is just going to be showing you the current status of the section I'm about to do some rebuilds on, and then I'll have a after section for the second half of the video here. So where I am at is the bell tower, so the opposite end of the long gallery from where the Viaduct Entrance Hall is, down there. So that's what I worked on last time. And now I'm going to be working down here. So specifically, I'm going to be making the center section here 8 studs wider. At least that's the plan for right now. And that will let me do several things that need to be done. I really didn't want to make this wider, so I put it off for a very long time, but I think it will ultimately look better and make completing sections around it easier. So first, adding in 8 studs will let me put in the third window that's supposed to be on this end in the center here. So that will look better. It'll also let me use a different angle of slope here that'll actually match the roof behind it, and the roof will be able to come all the way forward, because these are the like 1x2 slopes, and those are the ones that are 3 long. So that roof will actually come through pretty perfectly once I widen it by 8 studs, because on each side here there's about 4 studs, or yeah, 4 studs in width where it overlaps with this column section of the bell towers, so that will make it so those don't overlap as badly. It might still be a little tricky with kind of this section that sticks out here, as well as just this, what I used for the ridge there with those studs not on top plates, but overall I think this will be a good change for it. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video here for a moment for you, probably for several hours or days for me to complete the building, and we'll be back here in just a second. And we are back. So as predicted, this took a lot of time, several days worth of work. In fact, it's a week or so after I think I recorded the first half of this video, but a lot of changes have been done. So just here at these main entrance doors, they are completely different. I took the old ones apart and redid them to look a little bit closer to they do in the movies. It's still not quite perfect, but I think it is a vast improvement over the last ones. And I also redid this entire entrance section. So previously I had lots of little like 1x1 round bricks there, and it just wasn't, it was okay. It wasn't quite what I was after, and this I think looks okay also. It's, I think, a little bit better. I needed to widen it up quite a bit as far as the amount of space these side columns took up from before, and I don't know, this is not, still isn't quite what I was after. It'd be nice if LEGO just made some longer column pieces that were, you know, like, well, maybe even just 4 long that are just completely circular. They don't have like the little brick shape at the bottom of them like the 5 tall columns do, because then I could use those and just have 3 rows of those, and I think that would be ideal. But this is what it is for right now. Of course, it's always a work in progress, so that could be updated. But I did make this middle section 8 studs wider. So one potential issue with that is actually now the proportions are a little bit off for the width of these separate sections, because the towers, at least in the pictures I can see, they appear to be actually wider than the middle section, and they are now slightly narrower than it. So that's a potential issue, but I was able to get the third window in, as you can see here. I also redid how these little indent sections are, so they actually match how things are set up on the library. So right now this isn't sitting in place, but you can see up there on the library, I just used the same technique there for consistency's sake. I was able to fit a lot more of them in as well. So I think this is looking better. You will notice that, contrary to what I said in the first part of this, the peak here I actually kept as the 1x2 bricks. I changed it to the 1x3 slopes for a little bit, and that was very short. It only came up to like here, which made this whole section just look very squished, which wasn't ideal. Also, this section here in the middle now is attached to the towers on the sides. Kind of this floor here attaches all the way across, which really helps with stability. Makes me much less nervous about knocking down the actual towers themselves. One, again, potential proportions issue is that this peak here comes up a bit higher than it should. It should really be more in line with this section here, so it's like 3 or 4 bricks too tall potentially, but I think the angle looks good. I mean, one thing I could do, hopefully I'm not going to do this, but what I could do is just actually narrow this back by 2 bricks, or 2 studs in, because that would get rid of these larger gaps on the sides here, which could work, but I'm pretty happy with how this is for now. These doors do open and close without issue. I mean, closing them I have to do it pretty much from the back because there's not a great grip on it here, but that came together pretty well. We'll just give it a spin here, trying not to knock anything over. Oh, I see, it's not actually attached down back. There we go, back in this corner. So the back of it is very plain. Not super exciting at all. These archways are just for holding it up. These sections will have to be redone, as you'll see once I line this up where it belongs in the castle. This middle door actually lines up with the second floor, I think second floor of the long gallery, and this lines up with the hallway in that section, and then that window is just there to kind of break it up from the other side here so it doesn't look quite as plain on the inside. And then also that lines up with the corridor on the 3rd floor of the long gallery to give a little bit of interest at the end of that instead of it just being a flat wall. But I'm going to pause it here and take towers off so we can kind of see the interior for the moment. It's not very interesting, but we'll take a look inside, and then I will also move this to its actual location. Alright, so down at the ground floor here, quick look at the interior. Again, this will be redone because actually the Transfiguration hallway lines up with about this part of it here, which isn't ideal because it doesn't match up with the opening anymore since I widened up the middle. This is a very bad attempt at the humpback witch statue that leads to the secret tunnel that goes into Honeydukes, but it does actually flip open so you can see down through there. So eventually, once there's actually rockwork underneath this, that will lead down to a tunnel. Again, that statue is completely terrible. It was just to have something there to represent it. These stairs are not going to be what's here in the end. It's just kind of remind me that stairs need to be here. Also, right now, leading up to the next floor, there's not a actual hole to accept the stairs or students coming up in the floor above, so that will need to be redone as well. And then this other side, I think I've shown this before in a way long ago update, so I'm missing a torch. But this is just kind of a little study space with a couple of desks, and it looks like Newt Scamander has jumped the timeline and ended up in this section 4 now. Not dissimilar to how McGonagall did it in Crimes of Grindelwald. That's a whole nother issue. As I said, these doors open up, close. One benefit of this is I can actually reach my hand in if I need to pose figures or anything, as far as having these large openings. On these ends down here, I do, again, need to move the entrance over a little bit. Well, maybe not so much on this side, but on the other side, certainly. And that does it for the first floor here. These are the ideas that I could attach, I don't know, house crests or portraits or something to those spots to just make it a little bit more interesting. But I do like the little study nooks in there. moving up to the second floor has even less detail. But wow, how do I even get in here? So this section of roof just lifts off, just attached by a couple of studs on either side. Here, we'll just tip it back. Empty! Oh, there's a statue down at this end, but nothing else in here. It's probably just going to be a corridor for the moment. There's plenty of those in the castle. Don't really have plans for anything else. The arches going across are mostly just for stability, but they give it a good look. You could pose some figures up underneath the arches. I'll probably tile the floor over here eventually. This isn't a high priority interior to complete down here, but that does it for the interiors now. I'm going to put this back together and move it back to its correct spot down at the far end of the long gallery past the greenhouse there, and we'll see what it looks like in place. And here we are in place. So you are going to notice a couple of things that I still need to fix on this as we see how it lines up with the building behind it. I was aware that they still need to be fixed, but I wanted to actually finally get an update out. I've been working on this one for quite a while, and if I continue to make the little improvements right now, this video would probably put off another week or so. So I wanted to get this out. That's why it's not complete. First off, there's a gap here. I knew that was going to happen because this right here, this section, needs to be fixed up a little bit. As you can see, the columns of the tower, they stick back a stud. So there's a gap here. What I'm going to do to fix that is basically this, I guess, column here. So there's two potential ways. Either I will just basically get rid of the slope, and this will just sit right down on top of this, and then all of these will be shifted over one stud as far as these things attach sideways, because then it'll just slide into place. This will look a little strange if it's just squared off like that, so I'm thinking of using an inverted slope, just replacing a couple bricks here with inverted slopes, so at least has an angle up to support the tower, or the column there. And that'll fix it. It'll be able to slide it right up against there without issue. So that is the plan there. Like I said, I didn't want to have to do it for this update because it'd be several more hours, well, maybe not hours of building, but it would certainly take quite a bit of time, and I'm running out of time to get this video filmed today. So that's one problem. Also down here, this opening used to line up with the corridor that runs along the long gallery here. Doesn't do that anymore since I made the middle 8 studs wider. This shifted over, obviously. So that will need to just be filled in, basically. It does make this section look real plain, but that's how it's going to be for right now until I figure out how I want to make it more interesting, or if I want to make it more interesting. It's the same on the other side. You can see it's just a big blank wall there. So I might do something eventually. I'm not super worried about that. The next thing will just be to fix this little problem on either side, and then move on to whatever the next area of Hogwarts to be worked on is. I really want to continue this area of the castle that direction, but obviously there's not a table there. So hopefully before too long an IKEA trip can be in my future to pick up the missing table there. I've done a little bit of work over here with basically the other side of this library section, and then it'll have the Ravenclaw Tower in the middle, which I'm looking forward to getting that built as well. And then the other side of that will have the Astronomy Tower, and then of course the courtyard out in front of that will be over here. So that does it really for this update. Just focused on this, mainly on making it a little bit wider to get that extra window in. The roof does fit well in here now. There are gaps on the sides. I might fix that in kind of a similar way to how I did sections of the entrance hall courtyard, or I might just leave it for now. It's not super obvious there unless you are at this angle looking down. Obviously, a couple missing sections or parts as well. Just ran out of those, which was surprising because I thought I had plenty, but that's how this works. But I really like, even though there's that gap right now, the continuous roof here, there's not just this gaping hole here that has been there for a long time and been bothering me. So this was a good section to work on, even if it took a lot of time and effort and parts. And I just kind of like the angle of the rest of Hogwarts from here. It'll be even better when those 3 towers eventually have roofs on them, which I'm still figuring out exactly how I want to do that. But that'll do it for this update. Let me know what you think of the changes to the bell tower end of Hogwarts here. And please keep coming back for more videos. Thank you for watching.